Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
G'day and welcome back to How I Doubled. I'm your host, Owen Matheson. I'm absolutely passionate about helping business owners grow. I've been very fortunate to meet a lot of great business owners and entrepreneurs in the marketplace and become mates with them over the years. And one of those good mates is Matt Williams. Matt is a guy that likes to live large and have fun in life and in business, from being a professional triathlete touring the world, coming back to Australia as a fitness entrepreneur and trainer to the stars, to running one of Australia's largest wine festivals, to a pub group owner that's expanding rapidly. Matt Williams, thanks for your time.
You're very welcome.
So, mate, where did it all begin? This passion for business?
Well, I guess sort of growing up, I grew up in the eastern suburbs, which was not the eastern suburbs of Sydney that we know today. It was very blue collar, the area that I grew up in. And my mum and dad were both really hard workers, really sort of
Love it.
You know, blue collar people who had to make their own way. And you know, Dad had 3 jobs at one point. My mum had 2.
Wow.
And so I saw, you know, what they were doing in terms of trying to get some businesses going and a work ethic, really, that sort of served me through most of my life. And I see that in my siblings as well. They've all got a very good work ethic. So I attribute a lot of it to sort of how I grew up, probably like a lot of people do. We're structured and shaped by our experiences as children.
It's great to be a part of an environment like that keeps you humble and appreciative of everything that you achieve.
Definitely.
Tell us about school. Did you know what you wanted to do? I know you've had an interesting path, you know, studying architecture and then doing those other things.
Yeah, I did. So out of school, I wouldn't say I had a really clear direction ever. When, you know, I wanted to be out of school and be a doctor, or a lawyer, or anything like that. But I got reasonable grades and went off to Sydney University and sort of studied architecture there. But really a passion had sort of for sport had always lived inside of me, and I just in the final sort of throes of the HSC there through year 12, that really kicked in with one specific sport, and that was the sort of burgeoning sport of triathlon. And so I just started to get involved in that and was extremely passionate about it. I'd go to bed every night dreaming about, you know, what I wanted to do and thinking about things and how I was going to sort of have this great career in triathlon. And I remember, you know, finalising my HSC and getting all that behind me, and you know, getting the results for university. And I remember going to my mum and saying, you know, Mum, I'm going to be a professional triathlete, and you know, I can't wait. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to travel the world. And she said, Son, you've studied all these years. You've gotten to Sydney University. You're going to uni. So,
yes, Mum.
Yeah, so it was yes, Mum.
Can't argue with Mum on that one.
No, well, she knew better, and she's a fantastic mother. So I didn't sort of park that dream for too long. I went along and I studied, and you know, all the time that I was there, I had my head in the classroom, but I also had it sort of
feet on the bike.
Well, feet on the bike, but it just, you know, whether I was working my own training plans out or whatever it was, because back then I didn't have a coach. All I had was a real sort of a passion to do well in that sport. So I continued to work hard. That work ethic that I got from Mum and Dad and that I saw from a very young age. And, you know, I'd go and universities can be tough those first couple of years, believe it or not. I instead of going to schoolies, I worked for my uncle in a business that he had in Surrey Hills throughout the summer, and I saved enough money for a bike. And every day I'd be swimming and biking and running and whatever, and just trying to find as much information as I could about it. And you know, this was before the internet and before triathlon was sort of a burgeoning sport. So finding those little nuggets was very, very difficult. Eventually I worked myself up to respectable levels, and you know, I became the Australian junior triathlon champion for the Ironman distance, which is a big distance, 3.8 kilometre swim, 180 kilometre bike ride. Top it off with a marathon at the end.
Mate, I'm getting tired just hearing it.
Yeah, I look back and think, how did I do that? But you know, that sort of put me on the map for some sponsors and some further steps along the ladder there for me. And before too long, you know, I was racing with the professionals, and I won some decent races. I hadn't won anything really big at that stage. But then what happened was I was scouted by a French team, and still with some time left to study at university, I had a pretty tough decision to make. Do I follow my heart and what I've really been working towards for the last few years, or in the back of my head was Mum's voice, stay in uni.
Which was weird, and that would have been scary.
It was, yeah. Well, Mum's not scary, but I knew I've got a conscience about, you know, trying to, I guess, please my family and especially my mum. Yeah. And so I made the leap, and I said, look, I'm just going to put university on hold. I'm going to pursue this dream. I'm at a level where I think I can make a living doing that. And so off I went. I took my ventures around the world, and I was very fortunate. I got to travel all around the world and race in a sport that I was very passionate about, and quite frankly get paid to do it. So
you're winning, aren't you? You're getting paid to do what you love.
That's right. Yeah, you're living a dream, or it was my dream at that stage. So that was unbelievable. And so then that taught me a lot of lessons in terms of, again, where would I've sort of imparted that stuff later on, that knowledge later on.
What was that like, living in a different culture for a couple of years, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was daunting.
Yes.
You know, I hadn't learnt any French. I think I took one class with,
which kind of helps,
Mr. Frangos back in year 7 at Waverley College there. Never sort of, I knew where the ball was on the table, but that was about the only French that I knew. And so I was very fortunate in that the club, it's a different system over there. It's much like, I guess, like football is in Australia, which is we have professional clubs that feed into the professional ranks, and sort of lower level athletes sort of get brought along and get mentored into be professional athletes, and that's a lot what triathlon is like in Europe actually, and I think that comes out of the cycling culture. So I was very fortunate in that I got a club that was very experienced in doing that with foreign athletes. And coincidentally, there was another Australian couple there at the time, and he was a part of our team as well. So they provided a house for us and a car, and you know, all the trimmings that goes with that sort of thing. But I felt like culturally the shock wasn't as big as just being sort of planted in another country without any lifeline. And again, this is before the days of sort of mobile phones and the internet, that sort of thing. So I really was isolated, literally on the other side of the world. Yeah, right. I still remember the car ride as we got picked up from our 23-hour flight or whatever it was, and the manager of the team picked us up, and all of a sudden we're driving along on the opposite side of the road on, I think, what was 120 kilometres an hour, and this guy's going 180 kilometres an hour, and I'm sitting in the passenger seat just going, my God, what I am in for an experience.
Yeah.
But look, I've always been a person that sort of enjoys a challenge, and that was challenging, but overall is what I'm referring to, the challenge of putting myself in a situation where I don't know if I can cope with it, but I somehow find a way to do that.
And how to rely on yourself and back yourself.
Yeah, you've got to back yourself for sure.
So you did that for a couple of years, and then getting homesick, or what?
I'd be back and forth, and that was, basically the Australian winter was in Europe, and then back in Sydney, it was where I was based at the time, for the summer season here. And the first year that I came back, I actually had some bad luck. I'd had a lot of bike crashes. It's a lot more technical in France than it is a lot of the open roads that we have in Australia. Yep. I had a broken leg, and I just got out of hospital, and it was approaching the summertime, and I had no base fitness, and I was getting beaten by people that, quite frankly, I should have been beating when my fitness was there. And, you know, again, that sort of voice in the back of my head, should I go back to university and complete my studies there? What am I going to do? What's the next stage? And I was very fortunate to run into a guy who used to be a very good coach in triathlon. And I just coincidentally, he wasn't living in Sydney. He was living down in the Snowy Mountains in Thredbo, actually, in New South Wales. And coincidentally, I'm limping through a mall in Bondi Junction, and I see him across the other side of the mall. And I only knew him through a contact that we sort of both knew from a long time ago. He's about 8-10 years older than I am. And I thought, all right, well, I've got my broken leg here. Do I walk all the way over and say hello, or do I just sort of keep going on whatever my merry way was? And I made a decision there which actually really helped change my life.
Wow.
Because I made the effort to go see him. He's a very inspirational guy, and he inspired me to really make a commitment to my sport, where at that stage I wasn't sure that in which direction I was going to go. And what he did was inspire me to. He was working, as I said, down in the Snowy Mountains in New South Wales. He wasn't actually coaching at that time, and I remember having the thought, if I'm going to be good, I'm going to have to do it with this guy. Right. And so I went back home and I said, Dad, I'm moving down the Snowy Mountains and I'm going to train with a coach down there. And he said, okay. Yeah. And he packed up the car, and without any questions, we packed up the car. We organised some accommodation through a mutual friend down there who had sort of some ski accommodation. But, you know, in the summertime that was obviously vacant, and down we drove. And I remember knocking on this guy's door and saying, hey, I'm here.
you were serious, weren't you?
You're going to start coaching me. And I think in my head...
Was he surprised, or did he expect it?
Well, I've never actually
this is
worked
really
that out.
Interesting. You know, the timing of that, you got to...
Well, I'll tell you what I think from that, Owen, is in my head I was thinking, I'm going to show undivided commitment to what I'm trying to achieve here.
Yeah, right.
And I believed that if I did that he would also see that. And so I did. And he didn't give me any response, or any sort of a negative response, other than, okay, no problems. Training starts, you know where the swimming pool is, training starts at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. So in I went. I was the only athlete that he had. And along the way, he used to have a very...
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.